Hey everybody, it's Katie from Bobby Hair Studio. Today's tutorial is going to be on doing a bleach out. This is going to cover everything you need to know to do a bleach out. So if you're a beginner in hair or you have a little bit of apprehension into getting into bleach outs, this video is going to give you everything that you need to know about getting started into doing a perfect bleach out. This is my client's before and this is the after. So if you want to see how to do this, stick around. We're going to start off today with K18. I've wetted down her hair with a spray bottle and then I've sprayed in K18 mist and I'm just combing it through. This is going to protect her hair during our service. And today I'm using the very special California Dreamin' set by Framar. If you guys want to get a set like this, go to Framar's website and you can purchase it there. So I'm going to be starting her off with mostly 7 volume in Blonde Me, as well as the Blonde Me powder bleach. It's a 9-level lift, and I'm going to be adding 20 volume as I go. I am sectioning my client into 4 sections, and now what I'm making sure is that each section is wide enough to fit each foil, but not too wide so that the hair can't really fit into the width of a foil. For each of your clients, you might need to customize this a little bit. Sometimes I make the fronts a little bit wider where they come more closely to the back, and sometimes the back is a little bit wider. It all just depends on where my foil can fit the most efficiently, because the key to this service is being efficient and very quick. And the quickest way to be is that making sure that your foils all fit and that all of your sections are the same width so that everything processes at the same rate. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to start by doing a full platinum card. When you do a platinum card, you basically want to leave about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch of the root left so that you can apply the roots later. And this is because the scalp processes the bleach much faster than bleach that's further away from the scalp. Like if it's in a foil, it's still going to process nice and quickly, but it will process the fastest when it's on the scalp because of the heat from there. So I am leaving that 1/2 inch available so I can put it on later, and I'm only folding in my foils once and then on the sides so that they're easy to shift down later on. You'll see me painting on the roots, but I'm actually going to paint them on much faster than I would do a regular bleach root touch-up because of how well I've sectioned these foils off. Every single section is going to be paper thin so that I can see right through it. And if you can see through it, that means that your bleach is going to saturate through it. So you want to make sure that when you're applying your bleach that you brush your brush kind of like up and down, and that's going to give you an even distribution on top, but then also a little bit of side to side in some of those areas, like what I'm doing here, because that's going to open up the hairs and allow for the lightener to get underneath so that everything gets a proper consistent coating of lightener, which means a proper consistent lift. Because when you're going from the 4 different colors that you have in this client's hair to one solid color, any little bit of difference is going to be noticeable, especially when you start out with multiple colors in the hair. Now I have K18 in this client's hair to protect it because she does have some previous lifting. We are going to be cutting off about 2 inches at her ends just for a nice new fresh look. But overall, her hair was really healthy at the end of this service. It felt really good, and that is because the K18 and the Blonde Me working together to give her a beautiful lift while still maintaining the health of her hair. Something that also maintains a good lift and the health is to work your developers up as you go. So my first bowl right here has mostly 7 volume with a tiny bit of 20 and the Blonde Me mix like I told you guys earlier. And as I go with each bowl, I'm going to do a little bit less 7 volume and a little bit more 20 until I'm all the way up to just 20 alone. And that's going to be when I'm at the very front of the head and I only have a few foils left. What that's going to do is that's going to pick up the speed of each section that I do so it catches up with the section before it. And then that way, when you pull out your back section, if you've done your timing right and your developer leveling up right, then everything will come out at the same time and you're going to have a really efficient service. This whole service took me, I think, 4 hours to do from start to finish. So, you know, when you become a color correction specialist doing platinum cards, you can charge a little bit more for your hourly services because you go faster than other stylists, because you've gotten your timing and your formulations down to a science where you can be faster, and time is money. So when you are a little faster, you can charge a little more for that hourly rate because it's totally worth it. I'm going to be working my way all the way up till I reach this little triangular section at the top of her head, right around here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take in little pieces from the inner side of the foil so I can almost level out to be a straight line so that I can conjoin these two back sides into one conjoining piece up at the top later on. You'll see what I mean there. It's a little hard to explain, but what that's going to do is it's going to sit on top of the two sides and insulate that open exposed center, as well as make sure that I'm not just using a whole bunch of foils for a bunch of tiny little skinny pieces. I can be a little bit more efficient with my application time. And again, as I've been saying, efficiency is everything when you're doing a platinum bleach out. So efficiency and fresh bowls of color every 15 minutes, as well as quality products. This is going to get you your best blonde ever. So now that I've gotten the second side done, I've started with that little middle piece right there that conjoins the two sides. And this is what I'm talking about for efficiency. So when you can see this larger piece being put together in the middle and joined rather than being cut in half and put into two separate foils, this saves me a bunch of time, and time is everything for these appointments. Even though timing is one of the pillars of a perfect bleach out, I do think that the most important thing is saturation and consistency. When you have a consistent lift everywhere, you're going to get a more even result, even if it takes you longer to do because you're starting to get used to doing bleach routes for your clients and bleach outs and all these corrective platinum card services. They all take time to get faster at. Fast is not something you're going to have a skill in immediately. It takes time to do that, and that's okay. Just make sure that your consistency in your bleach and that your saturation is perfect, because that's the number one thing that matters, because otherwise you're not going to have a consistent lift. Now with this back section, I'm basically moving forward until I know whatever I have left in front is the width of a foil, because what I'm going to do on the front is I'm going to go more horizontally up to the side. So I'm taking this whole crown section and working in kind of like a half mohawk or a partial mohawk up until I have about half of the width of the front left over. As you can kind of see where I am, this is a perfect width for me to start going horizontally up the side of the head. So I'm going to turn my client around here, and you can see that I'm going to start working on her side. So here you can see that I am still doing really thin pieces, and I've started on one side. It doesn't matter which one that you start on, but what does matter is that you start way before you have a parting. Now my client parts in the middle of her head, so I've started 2 inches off of the one side of her parting off to the right, and I'm working my way up and over the top of her head to 2 inches over on the other side of her parting on the left side. Now what that's doing is it's making sure that the top of the head has a longer time to process than the sides. Because the sides lift a little bit faster than the top, they don't need to be on for as long. And the top is the thing that you're going to see first, and it's the thing that you're going to see the most. So you want to make sure that that, out of everything, is super, super blonde, and especially along the parting. Now the reason that I start 2 inches onto either side of the parting is so that I can insulate the parting in the middle of this section, because the middle is going to keep the warmest. It's not going to have a cooling down point where maybe the bleach will slow down and not process as much. It's going to have the most perfect lift. So that's why I'm doing that. So I've worked my way up to the parting, and because my client is pretty tall and it's getting a little hard for me to reach over and see, I'm just flipping her over to the other side where I can continue on downwards and just flip my foils back up on top of themselves as I'm putting them in. When it comes to a platinum card, it might be very difficult to see what kind of hair you should be lifting and what kind of hair you should be leaving out of the foil. As you can see, there's a couple of her foils where I've left out a couple little pieces, and that's because they were lifted to a perfect level 9.5. But with her hair, she's only really got a couple of pieces that were lifted that light. Everything else was lifted to like about a level 8.5, and her natural color I would call like a 6.5 to a 7. So I knew that I could still cover all of this because it had a treatment on it. and that it would still be totally fine. But any of those kind of areas that were lifted to that platinum color already, I pushed out the side of my foil. I only covered anything that still needed to be lifted because I don't really want to like burn off her hair. This can be a lot more difficult when you have a client with a lot of highlights, but she didn't really have much lightening in her hair. It was mostly on the ends and a money piece, and it could all handle being lifted again. So that's why she was perfect for basically a solid platinum card. Now that I'm done the top piece, I'm going to start with around her ear and work my way up to meet that top so that I can have a great insulation between my last piece on the side and my last piece on the top. And the reason why I'm starting with this side is because the first piece on the top is sitting over onto the other side of the hair, and that's nice and warm. I want to make sure that the last piece I put on the top is equally well insulated with a side that's going to reflect the heat really nicely up towards it. So I am flipping them back on over. I'm going to turn my client around and I'm going to work on her other side. However, I'm not really going to show you guys that because it's the exact same thing as I did on this side. So this is what she looks like on the other side, and that foil on the top has had a lot of time to process. So it's lifting quite nicely. It's already quite warm. And now we're going to be talking about the roots. This is my favorite part of a platinum card technique. This is so easy. Basically, you can just take each foil, and it's already sectioned, each section for you. Take your new mixture of 20 volume, make sure it's a new mixture, and apply it to the front and back of the roots of each piece. Now, what I like to do is scoot down the foil a little tiny bit, just in case there's any areas that didn't get fully saturated up near towards the top. However, my sections were really skinny with this client, so I did get a really good even lift all the way up to that root that I painted a hard line up to. Again, another thing that's awesome about a platinum card is that you don't have to worry about feathering or blending because you want to create a strong line that you can cover up to when you're doing the roots. So this is a really quick, easy way of doing it. You don't have to worry about a little bit of overlap because that old bleach is acting as a barrier actually, because it's already developed. So it's creating a barrier of protection, even though it's bleach, on top of your hair that's already been lifted. So it's okay if you're a little bit messy with this side, as long as you get it fully saturated. You're very generous with your portions of bleach on the roots. It's going to do some clouding, it's going to do some puffing up, but that's okay because that old bleach is like a shield. It's making sure that that full strength of the new lightener isn't fully penetrating through into the hair. And I always like to start with the area that I started with. So I started with the back. That's where I'm applying my roots first, and I'm letting the front catch up to the back as much as possible while I'm applying the back roots. Then I'm going to put on the front roots, but you don't really need to see that. It's just the exact same thing as what I'm doing here. After I'm done applying each side, I make sure to take a little extra lightener and apply into like the cracks between the foils where it gets a little bit more airflow, because I don't want that drying out too quickly and getting orange. Orange is not what we want to see. Now this is what hair looks like when it's not fully developed. Do you see that tiny bit of orange there? That's going to look crazy orange if I wash it out now. But back over here, when I scrape this away, it's going to look like one consistent color. Look at how beautiful that lift is. That's the color you want to see inside of the banana yellow. That's the best color for a bleach root. It means that you can tone it to make it look white, but it's not so over bleached that it is white. And you can see that when I'm rinsing off her hair. Her hair looks white with the bleach on it, but as you rinse it off, it's definitely yellow. Now this is what I would call almost like a healthy platinum, because you still have enough of the melanin in the hair to maintain its structure and it's not melting, but it's light enough that you can fake a white color if you have the right toner on there. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the Fanola No Orange Blue Shampoo, it's my favorite for blondes, to just give her a pre-tone before I put on my actual toner. Now my toner formulation for my blonde today, because she wanted to be a creamy, bright, soft, warm platinum, she got the TBH 10-51 plus the Blonde Me Ice, I'm not sure how I pronounce that, but I've applied it to the roots first and I'm applying it to the ends now. And it's a great mix of something very icy and cool mixed with something a little bit on the warmer side of platinum. And this is going to create a beautiful color. Just a reminder, this is what she walked in with, some kind of old balayage, lots of reds and oranges and yellows, nothing really super bright. And she was ready to go super solid platinum blonde. You ready for the result? I mean, you've already seen it, but there we go. Here's her result. an off-white that is equal parts glowy and like a soft creamy color. It's beautiful on any skin tone, and this is why I think it's going to be one of the really popular tones of 2022. It's because it's got that softness that can go with any skin tone. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please remember to leave me a like and maybe think about subscribing if you want to see some other tutorials. I'd really appreciate it, as it takes a lot of work for me to film and put together these videos for you guys. I hope you appreciate it. Please let me know what you think about this transformation in the comments below. And I hope you guys have a really lovely week or weekend whenever you're watching this. Have a great day, guys.